Childhood responsibilities that were never yours, parentified, silenced, and burdened too early. Welcome back to the Family Roles series inside School of Soul. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and in this video, we're breaking down a pattern that shapes many adult identities without ever being named: early role distortion. Specifically, the pattern of being parentified, emotionally burdened, and treated as an adult, long before you had the tools or the neurological development to function as one. Let's start with a clear definition. Parentification is when a child is compelled to take on adult responsibilities, especially emotional ones, due to the failure or emotional unavailability of the actual caregiver. There are two main types of parentification: instrumental and emotional. Instrumental parentification involves tangible duties, like managing household tasks, caring for siblings, or stepping into logistical roles. Emotional parentification occurs when a child becomes a surrogate emotional partner, therapist, or source of validation for the parent. Both forms interrupt development, both cause identity confusion, and both result in a long-term distortion of how you relate to others, how you perceive your own needs, and how safe you feel in the world. Let's walk through the specific signs and examples of responsibilities you were never meant to carry and what they've cost you. 1. Being your mother's emotional therapist or surrogate spouse. When a mother offloads her emotional pain, fears, insecurities, or even intimate relationship problems onto her child, she reverses the natural direction of care. The child becomes the stabilizer. This is emotional parentification. You may have heard your mother say things like, "You're the only one who understands me. You're more mature than most adults. I don't know what I'd do without you." While these statements sound affectionate, they're not appropriate when spoken to a child who cannot consent to emotional labor. The psychological outcome is this: you learn to suppress your own distress. You feel emotionally responsible for others' well-being. You become drawn to roles of rescuer, fixer, or confidant in adult relationships. You equate love with emotional labor. This type of role reversal erases the child's emotional development in favor of protecting the adult. 2. Mediating adult conflicts and hiding family secrets. Many children are placed in the position of being the peacekeeper, translator, or emotional buffer between feuding adults. You may have been asked to talk to your dad for your mom, keep quiet about what happened, or not mention that incident outside the house. This form of responsibility forces the child to manage adult dynamics, often without context or power. And because the child usually wants to help, they comply. The long-term consequences include anxiety and high emotion situations, difficulty trusting authority figures, confusion about when and how to speak truth, internalized belief that conflict is dangerous, emotional exhaustion from always playing the middle. You become an adult who scans the room for tension, blames yourself when things go wrong, and over-apologizes to keep peace. Not because you're submissive, but because you were trained to absorb conflict as your responsibility. 3. Upholding the family image at the cost of your development. In dysfunctional family systems, image is often prioritized over truth. This means children are trained explicitly or implicitly to perform emotional health that does not exist. Examples: smiling in public after being yelled at privately, attending church or school with bruises, trauma, or confusion, and acting like everything is fine. Being told to respect your elders when those elders are abusive or unsafe. Being punished for sharing the truth of what happens inside the home. This teaches you that honesty is betrayal, and that truth must be hidden if it threatens perception. As an adult, this creates shame around asking for help, fear of airing dirty laundry, chronic perfectionism in public settings, repression of grief, anger, or pain to avoid looking ungrateful, loyalty to toxic family members for the sake of optics. When the family image is sacred, the child's truth becomes disposable. 4. Substituting as a co-parent to siblings. This is a textbook case of instrumental parentification. In many families, especially where the mother is overwhelmed, absent, emotionally unstable, or divorced, the eldest child, often the daughter, is tasked with raising the younger children. You might have been the one getting your siblings dressed, preparing meals, managing school routines, diffusing tantrums, enforcing discipline in the home. While some of these tasks seem harmless or even mature, the issue is that they interrupt normal childhood development. You weren't playing, you were managing. You weren't exploring, you were monitoring. This form of premature responsibility results in guilt for setting boundaries with family members later in life, resentment masked as obligation, inability to rest or disconnect without feeling selfish, confusion around your role in peer or romantic relationships, difficulty accessing your own desires because your identity was based on others' needs. You became an adult before your nervous system was ready, and even when the duties ended, the identity stayed. 5. The identity crisis that forms when survival becomes your role. When all of these distorted responsibilities combine, the result is a false self. A child becomes who they need to be in order to survive the emotional climate of the home. That survival identity may be the caretaker, the peacekeeper, the overachiever, the ghost, the hero, the fixer. These roles were adaptive. They worked. but they came at the cost of your authentic development. If your entire childhood was spent regulating the people around you, managing other people's pain, and earning safety through performance, you never had the chance to discover who you actually are, what you want, what feels good, what's worth saying no to. That's not just emotional confusion. That's an identity crisis rooted in developmental role distortion. Reframing the truth. You were never meant to carry these roles. Let's be clear. You didn't volunteer for these roles. You adapted into them. You stepped up because the adults around you stepped out. But your ability to survive dysfunction is not proof that it was okay. Survival is not consent. Silence is not acceptance. And performance is not peace. Your body may have grown up, but parts of you are still operating under the same conditions that shaped you early on. And that's what we begin to dismantle in healing. The first step is recognizing that what you were asked to carry was never yours. Your role was supposed to be child, not therapist. Son or daughter, not parent. Human, not placeholder. You don't owe gratitude for the opportunity to function as a substitute adult. You owe yourself the opportunity to exit the role, mourn what was lost, and rebuild a life based on authenticity, not survival scripts. In the next video, we'll move into the mechanics of enmeshment, what happens when your emotions were never fully yours to begin with. You'll learn how lack of boundaries and fused identity dynamics keep the mother wound active well into adulthood. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and what you just watched is part of my signature program, the Chosen One series inside School of Soul. This series is not just a course, it's a blueprint for those who know they were different from the start. The black sheep, the scapegoat, the truth teller, the cycle breaker. Inside, you'll discover the family roles playbook, the golden child, the scapegoat, the enabler, the lost child, and how to finally step out of the part you were cast in without consent. How the black sheep becomes the goat, turning rejection into radical transformation and leadership. How to break generational curses and rewrite ancestral contracts so the pain stops with you. And how to recognize and escape modern forms of spiritual and technological targeting, from gang stalking to synthetic synchronicity. This isn't just about survival. It's about awakening, about reclaiming your voice, your lineage, and your destiny as one of the chosen ones. Click the link below to access the full series now, because the role ends the moment you decide it does, and the real script begins with you.